this evening. I hope you're all logging in and we are ready to go on Zoom and on Facebook. We're streaming live. My name's David Werrett. I'm the Workforce Director at Cambridge University Hospitals. I'm delighted to be hosting this evening. The main act is to follow, but I thought we'd just say a few words in recognition of what we are celebrating today. So I'm here on this call because I'm the sponsor of the CUH LGBT+ network, delighted to perform that role. I know the colleagues from across the health system and partner organisations are also joining us this evening. Welcome to you all. So just a gentle reminder about what today is. Today is International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia and Transphobia, IDAHOBIT, which feels quite a bit of a mouthful to say. But just a reminder of how important this is. So created in 2004 to draw attention to violence and discrimination experienced by lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex people, and all other people with diverse sexual orientations, identities, expressions, and characteristics. So a very inclusive day. But it reminds us that it was only on this day in 1990 that the World Health Organization declassified homosexuality as a mental disorder in 1990, which sadly I remember very well, 1990. To see that change in a lifetime, in a generation, is astounding. It's celebrated across 130 countries, including in those countries which still may criminalize the LGBT+ community. So it is still relevant. And whilst we know in the UK and in many countries LGBT+ identities are protected under legislation, there is still a significant amount of bias, prejudice, discrimination that many members of the community experience. So it's really important to us to keep on talking about this, remembering this, keep on focusing on the journey we are all on as countries and communities. CUH, talking for the organisation I'm a member of, stands against this in all its forms, and we are actively working to make sure all of our LGBT+ patients and staff are treated safely, fairly and inclusively. It's a work in progress, but it's one we're very, very passionate about in the organisation. The IDAHOBIT theme this year is Together, Resisting, Supporting, Healing, reflecting the challenges the world has faced this year. This poetry and spoken word performance evening is hosted by the network as our contribution. Alongside, I was delighted to see this morning the LGBT+ flag, the new LGBT+ flag, reclaimed flag, if I can be slightly controversial, on the main roundabout all week. Hopefully we'll see that flying across the country increasingly as we mark important cultural developments across our organisations. So that's my explanation about why we're here and why today and why it's an important day to celebrate and recognise. I am delighted to say I'm joined by three performers this evening, if I can use that term, three artists, performers, contributors to get our brain firing, to make us think and smile and reflect on all of those things I've just talked about. So we've got Hannah, Alex and Faye, and we're going to start this evening with Hannah. Hannah Chutzpah is a performance poet and writer with 3 published collections of poetry out right now. You studied creative writing at UEA, has been performing since 2009. As well as being an Edinburgh Fringe regular, she's toured the UK, has written, performed for a number of national audiences. Did I read somewhere you're a mudder?
Mudlarker.
Mudlarker, yes. You hang around the Thames digging things up, yes. Which is a lovely thing to do as well as poetry. So Hannah, we're going to hand over to you first of all, and we're going to go on to speak of you, and we're going to really enjoy your performance. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I thought I'd start out with some of the things which I'm not missing in working from home for the last year and a bit. This first piece is called Shithead Bingo, and I'm going to give a short content warning that this is about rubbish workplace banter. It is not the workplace banter. I do not agree with the views being expressed in this piece. This workplace, I should say, is a few years ago. Current colleagues, I have no complaints, but it goes like this. This is so shit, you can tell a woman designed it. Cross. That is so gay. Cross. I'm not being racist, right? But cross. Shithead bingo. A game for hostile work environments. Step 1. Create your shithead bingo card. Select your targets from stereotypes and disadvantaged groups: the elderly, sex workers, ethnic minorities, fat people, thin people, people on benefits, women with small tits, female drivers, child abuse survivors. This is your shithead bingo card. Create this card in your head. You don't want a note lying around that looks like the alt-right's to-do list. Pick 9 squares each week for the starter game, or 25 if you're playing pro. Congratulations, you are now ready to play shithead bingo. Whenever a square on your card is called by your shitty colleagues' shitty jokes, cross it off. The bitter smile this gives you will distract you from digging nails into palms, doodling violent doom, or going to the bathroom again to text a friend or cry. She's just being a spastic. Cross. He never gets around in fucking Jew. Cross. These are my tranny shoes. Cross. If one week you find every square crossed off, congratulations, you have just won at Shithead Bingo. Throw your arms in the air and shout, "Full house! Fuck you all!" Defenestrate your computer along with any colleagues you wish. Leave in a victory parade of security guards or police. Why don't we just send them all back? Cross. Thick people shouldn't breed. Cross. This week has been totally schizo. Cross. If you have been playing for weeks and have not yet won, remember that you are not wasting years of your life surrounded by assholes. You are just playing a very long game of shithead bingo. Don't get cross, just cross it off. 2 fat ladies, 88. Be strong. You know something that they don't know. Their punchlines are the bingo balls spinning in their cage, predictable in their horror, helping you to while away the day. If your manager, the one with the rape jokes, reviews your performance poorly, brings up your bad attitude and tells you to consider this a warning, remember that he has crossed a line. His comments crossed off a whole line by Wednesday. Play the game. Promise him you'll do better. And you will. Next week, you'll pick a bingo card so good that you'll cross off the whole lot by Friday. And you'll be sitting in the job centre victorious. So that was my first poem. Any questions? Hello, my name is Hannah Hutzpah. I am a poet. Some of the other speakers are doing the BSL applause because in the world of Zoom, this is how we can show appreciation or type nice things in the chat. I've heard at some poetry events, people type in lines they particularly liked. I'm not digging. I can't see your responses on the Zoom call that I'm on. But I feel like poetry has a useful role sometimes in setting expectations. I feel like it's when you give people a short period of time to talk about what they care about, you can get pretty deep pretty quick. And that's one of the things I really like about poetry. But I feel like calling out poorer expectations is possibly going to be a small theme this evening. I think that we have come a huge way, and we also still have a huge way to go. There will be more upbeat and lovey pieces as well. But this next poem is called Straight Pride Flag, because I found the concept of a straight allies flag. Sorry, I learned that there is a straight allies flag, and I found the concept just bizarre, because imagine going along to the march to show your support, but also wanting to point out that I'm not one of you. So this piece was inspired by this poetry is a useful release valve, and it's more quickly and easily available than the mental health support, which we also access. I am mostly kidding, but this piece is called Straight Allies Flag. Your allyship wants to clarify its role to everyone. Does not want to be mistaken among our ranks. I'm straight, but I think it doesn't matter who you love or what you are. Your allyship has not listened enough to know that indifference is not solidarity. Your allyship wants to be known, wants to be told how good it is and how fierce it looks today, girlfriend. Your allyship thinks my girlfriend is just a friend. Your allyship needs to stop using the word girlfriend like that. Your allyship expects congratulations for turning up at Pride, consumes the most consumable parts of our culture, and messes up our pronouns. Compliments us with a surprised, but I'd never have known. Your allyship assumes heteronormativity in the spaces we hold for our other. Your allyship slams doors it does not even perceive, but it's fine because some of your allyship's best friends are gay. Your allyship needs to grow up. Your allyship can now toddle about on its own, but is not yet ready to stand shoulder to shoulder. Your allyship wants a cookie for knowing that you don't hit people, wants to rest in its low expectations pushchair while we push, and balls wounded if someone explains why that thing it did wasn't very nice or how it could do better next time. Your allyship wants to take part, but is still sometimes shitting its pants and crying when it's someone else's turn. And that's the end of that piece. I promise I'm not only angry, but I feel like we don't progress further by saying it's all fine now. That's not how progress happens. But I am going to take a slight upbeat detour and find, oh shoot, where did I put it? And I am going to do a slightly more upbeat piece. And this is called Mermaids, and it's here. One moment, sorry, shoot. Goes like this. When you feel landlocked by your otherness, wounded and alone, remember there are women you have not met yet. Women who will wail and, oh shoot. I do not have that one memorized. I am so sorry. I'm going to move on swiftly to another piece. And this one is called Verdict. And this is, no, that's not upbeat enough. I am going to move on to, I'm so sorry. Where has it gone? First Against the Wall. Here we go. I'm going to do a slightly different piece. This is queer material, more upbeat. I think there is nothing better than that moment in time where you look back and realize that not only does your ex no longer really have an angle, you're not only no longer hurt by something rubbish in your past, but also that person doesn't even really know you anymore. And this piece is called Snakeskin, and it goes like this. Years after I realized let's stay friends was a promise only worth keeping for people worth keeping. After the unfriend, the block, the Darth Vader ringtone so I know when it's bad news calling, she asks why I have a problem with her. I want to give her a laundry list say drop a beat and I'll drop a beat and I'll spit you my 3-hour freestyle on the ways you are a sociopath. But these days, I know a trap when I see one. So I say, snakeskin. Your idea of who I am is a pale outline, which hasn't fit for years. You're grasping at a ghost. I have grown, split my skin, and moved on countless times since then. I know you think you know where the sore spots are, but I have cast off every inch of skin you ever touched, shed that shadow and slithered on, not because of you. It's just what we do. So hold tight to the memories. You're only holding snakeskin. Sure, you charmed me once, held me mesmerized while I swallowed your stories whole, but I'm not spineless. I'm flexible. I can always wriggle free, and I'm never going back in a basket. I don't hide under rocks, I bask. When we met, change was overdue. I was faded, constricted, with cloudy eyes and skin that barely fit, so I split and discarded it, kept winding my way, flickering my tongue, my scales shining that deep gloss that was always there beneath. I've just remembered that you're afraid of snakes. And that only makes it better when I say, my old skin holds the shape of the smaller me, the one that you once knew. So hold as tight as you like to my shadow's tail. You're only holding snakeskin. And this is a more upbeat piece, but not the one that I thought I had memorized and did not. My apologies. I will stick that somewhere people can find it later. But I have a newish piece which my girlfriend requested because they feature in it, and that is their jam. This is called It Gets Better. I don't know about anyone else, but it's a lovely concept. It gets better, but if I think about what I needed to hear when I was a teenager, it was often way more specific than that. And then I realized recently that something that happened over a year ago now was probably that example. If I had a time machine and I could go back and tell myself, this would be the one. So this is my final piece, and I have been Hannah Chutzpah. This is called It Gets Better. I see you, kid. Backpacks stuffed with dreams and dog-eared confidants. Your hoodie hides a magma crust. An armored exterior holding together a justified volcano. It gets better is too abstract. You need clear, cold facts, precision, a breeze of a promised future to cool your present. I have a handful of those. 1. There will be names for everything and solutions for some of them. 2. You will turn this shit to fertilizer. Someday your weirdness will be prized by employers with diversity boxes to tick and no clue how. The things you endure today will inform staff training, which you will teach. You will send out seeds on the wind to bloom in places you've never been, but more immediately, 3. You will love and be loved, be adored without earning it or transforming. And 4, one day, on a packed train home with someone who adores you, you will recognize another passenger, her, your old tormentor, sat just in front of you looking unremarkable. You will whisper who she is to the one who adores you, and they will position their enviable, ample ass in Amelia's sour, uptight face and begin snogging you. expertly, ostentatiously, all 10 train stops home. You, plural, will parade the love you thought you'd never get, gorgeous, giggling, petty, proud, while she perhaps remembers the many ways in linoleum halls that she tried to shrink you down. Perhaps she will feel ashamed of herself. Perhaps she always did. And I think that's been it from me. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor. And I know the other poets that are coming up, you guys are in for a treat. Cheers.
Anna, thank you so much. I love the idea of shit to fertilizer, amongst many other observations there. Thank you so much. And you're staying around, and if there's other things you want to join with later, please do. Thank you. So can we turn to the second performer this evening? In a way, Alex, to many of us, needs no introduction, but of course, to some, he may need an introduction. And I'm going to read the one that you've supplied yourself, Alex, which is, I'm a queer trans guy with ADHD, which means I've picked up half a dozen or so hobbies in my lifetime. One of these is spoken word poetry from time to time. And we're so grateful, Alex, that you've stepped out from the CUH community to share that with us this evening. You talk about working in the basement, but for a man who works in the basement, you have quite a profile in the organisation and wider, and we are grateful that you come out of the basement and do this with us from time to time. So, Alex, without any further ado, over to you.
Thank you. I'm not gonna lie, Hannah's a hard act to follow, but I'll try my best. So my first poem was written way back in 2014, not long after I came out as trans, and there were still issues with friends and family saying the right pronouns. So it's a bit of an emotional one. If you've ever gone to the open mind nights that we've hosted for mental health, then you probably heard it once or twice already, but it's I'm saying it again anyway, because it's just one of my favorite poems I've ever written, not gonna lie. Okay, pronoun slip. Perhaps one day I'll cross the void between what you can't see and what I so strongly feel. Maybe I'll find a better word to use, because dysphoria never seems to cut it. You sigh and roll your eyes, wondering why I let this small thing get to me. You cannot comprehend the significance of this tiniest event. And why would you? You've never thought much on the basic social constructs. You think my sudden low mood over a pronoun slip is silly, but that slip tells me that the perception is still wrong. People look at me and somehow still see me as I was. And while the basics of me haven't changed, a large part has. I found myself, yay! But that doesn't make life simple. Now I psychoanalyze the stereotypes and try to fit them, except I don't. Your biggest fear is that I'll change, so I won't. But then I'm not acting enough like a guy for you. It's a social battle I'm doomed to lose. The only way I can truly comfortably be me is through physical transition, because you still look at me and somehow see a girl. My voice automatically tells your subconscious to use she and her. You're confused by my severe depression, but you don't see all these loose connections. I need to be myself, but ingrained beliefs and automatic reactions make this impossible. The assumptions made, both before and after someone learns I'm transgender, before I'm just a dyke and somehow trying to stand out, then you learn the truth. Suddenly you feel you can ask questions, the kind that if I were to ask you when no knowledge of trans were given, you'd most surely be offended. Yet because I am different, a strange taboo, you're allowed to strip me of rights. Rights you never realized you yourself always had. Now I'm suddenly not Alex, not a human being with their own mind. I am transgender. Your transgender friend. Not for long, though. Suddenly I must be a wealth of knowledge, but you're mistaken. No experience is alike. Only similarity is the pronoun slips. Because in that moment when we're misgendered, it's an electric shock, a slap across the face, raising hairs on our skins, making us want to retreat, feeling incomplete. When it happens, you feel a fool. What was I thinking, believing you'd see me as a guy? But there's nothing I can do but persist, because despite some people's opinions, this wasn't my choice. When you screw up my pronouns, You invalidate me in my entirety. With one stupid fucking word. Still don't get why I'm upset? Then go away. I've lost my patience with your ignorance. This next poem is one that I wrote this year during the first lockdown, although it's not really lockdown related. So I don't know if other people have had this, but I tend to find that the conversation that comes up the most in the workplace or with friends who aren't part of the community is this question around using labels and feeling like we don't need them anymore. And so I do what I always do. I walked away and I wrote a very long poem on it. I've never read this one out before, so bear with me. I might stumble with some of the words. It's called Labels. What is a label? A word? A descriptor? Adjectives that we carry with us, used to define us. Some labels are given more power over others, whether that's by society or the wearer interpretation. Well, I guess that's subjective. Time and time again, people moan, we don't need labels anymore. So then, how do you define yourself? I'm a younger brother. I'm a writer and an artist. Are these not also at their base roots labels? We act like labels are something new, but we've been defining ourselves with them for years. So what changed? Was it that suddenly there are labels that the majority in society cannot use? A feeling of being left out, maybe? Or is it that people are uncomfortable with what the labels mean? Queer people exist. They always have. But the words we use to describe them are, relatively speaking, brand new. But society has been labeling them for years. Dirty. Sinners. Slurs I dare not use. Of course, these labels are offensive, created during a time when being queer in itself was considered offensive. Now we're reclaiming words and defining ourselves. We don't need society to tell us we deserve to exist. We're telling each other that. The internet, you beautiful thing, you have allowed us a way to communicate en masse. To realize that we're not alone. There are others out there who experience this world in the very same way that we do. And there are so many, many beautiful and rich ways to experience this world. It's mind-boggling. It could also be pretty lonely. So we define it. We find others who relate to those definitions. We build up our family and find trusted confidants. We provide a path with which the younger generation can follow, a way they can find themselves. Because we remember the fear of not knowing, of having no label, of struggling to find our own identity. We remember mourning that loss. We weren't normal. But what exactly were we then? I didn't come out as trans until I was 21 years old. First time I stumbled upon the concept was when I was 18. 18 years of feeling different, of discomfort I couldn't quite define. You may think labels aren't needed anymore in this world, but I say until we have impactful education and a society that is fully accepting of all queer identities, we do need them. And we've earned the right to shout them as loudly and as proudly as we want to. We have to live true to ourselves. We have to make happy memories for all those who cannot. And the fight for equality doesn't stop at accepting a label. No, it keeps going. Because there are people in other countries who are jailed or killed for who they love. And what is love if not a universal definition? We all know and understand the concepts. If you're fortunate, then you've already felt what love is. And if a simple label helps people define love, why stand between that? And if a simple label helps people define themselves, why stand between that? As humans, we're constantly growing and learning. And the person I am today, he isn't the same as that scared teenager, the one going through a puberty that didn't seem right. And if you thought once, why do we need labels? Don't take my words as an attack. Take them as an opportunity. Okay. This next one is just called politics because that's basically, it's to do with some of the stuff that was happening in sort of the UK media and other things that came out. Again, around the treatment of sort of trans people. That's kind of where I go with this. This one has a bit more swearing than the other ones, but hopefully it doesn't put you off too much. Politics. I'm going to be honest. I never used to care about politics until politics cared about me. People behind screens and on the streets yelling about my existence being a threat. As a sexual assault survivor, that hurts. It's a massive insult to my very person that you would call me a paedophile based on one aspect of who I am. Yet, every instance that I've experienced such crimes, it's been cisgender white men. Do you not realize how much the trans movement has done and wants to do to help women, to help cis, gay, and bi men? When we had your back, you didn't mind, and now we're asking you to return the favor and you shun us away. I have the privilege of a loving family that accept me, but I ache for those who don't, knowing there are trans people out there who can't get a job, can't get a home, cold on these winter British streets. Whatever happened to look after thy neighbor? I know good true Christians, and you lot hitting us, you ain't it. So take a ticket and enjoy your condemned life, because you're riding a one-way trip to your own hell. I could turn a blind eye. That was my luck, but I've reached a point that I can't anymore. There's an anger burning in my soul. It makes my very body fidget with restlessness, because I am watching as more trans people die every day, because some bitch of an author decided to use her platform for hate. Oh, she decorated it in fancy prose and academic-sounding literature, but it was still an instrument of hate. I can never decide what party I should care about anymore, because they're taking turns in using our rights as a vote of hook, hang us out to dry because we're the easy target. You're just showing yourselves to be career politicians, and we've had enough of that. You're supposed to be protecting us, but you just protect your own interests. Have some guts and make a stand. Look out for your lesser men, women, and non-binary siblings, because when the dust settles and you didn't do that, you have to carry that guilt. Trans people are dying every day. Lives ripped away when they've barely started. Suicides that could have been avoided. Just respect their names, their pronouns, their identities. Let us live in peace. I'm going to be honest. I never used to care about politics until politics cared about me. And despite whatever bullshit you think, my existence is not yours to debate. I do have one last quite short one. I wasn't sure if I was going to read it out, but I think I will. Apologies if I get a little emotional, because this is related to a relative that passed away quite recently. But I think it's an important thing for people to know about. My granddad had Parkinson's, but didn't get diagnosed until he was already very poorly. So that's sort of the context for this, I guess. I wish you could speak to me, but you can't. Your body moves occasionally. A non-verbal groan makes it past your teeth. Can't tell if that means you're happy I'm here or in pain. I don't know if the nonsense I says means anything to you at this point. I don't even know if you recognize my voice. It's so much deeper now. How lost in the past might you be? Parkinson's is such a cruel disease. At least I got to see you one last time, although holding your hand felt empty. Just pressure on the other side of a glove. My glasses are fogging up. It's just because of this mask, though. I don't know when this numbness is going to break. For a moment, it always does, as I recount childhood memories. You shift away from me and it hits. In case you don't recognize my voice, stating my dead name wasn't what hurt. It was the fear that you didn't know me, that to you I was a stranger. I'm Alex now, though, and my voice has changed. You calmed down. I took that as a sign of remembrance. God, I hope that was true. We were there for 2 hours. Didn't feel like enough for me, but maybe it was for you. I like to tell myself you held out, that you heard the news we would be visiting, and that you were happy to hear our voices. One more time. One last time. Thanks for listening. And I'll pass back over to David.
Alex, I don't really know what to say to follow that, to tell the truth. But I want to thank you. Thank you, because I think we've probably known each other for a few years now, but I've probably learned more about you in 10 minutes and what you want to say through words and poetry that I probably may never have known. So thank you so much on behalf of us all. Right. Compose myself and introduce Faye. So Faye Roberts. Faye is a performance poet, storyteller, musician, events host. I'm going to blow my nose, Faye. Artistic director of spoken word Free Fringe for the Edinburgh Festival, an accidental voice actor, and I'm quoting your own words here, enormous geek, another label, your words, prove it. During weekdays, Faye persuades people to make meaningful lists and says no to shiny things. For every role, there is a spreadsheet. We'll explore that a bit more, Faye. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Okay, just to prove my geek credentials, my set list is on a spreadsheet that works out how long each thing is, and if I'm going over time. Yeah, there's a spreadsheet for everything. It's very true. This one is, I guess you'd say it's more about transformation and living true to yourself than anything else. Content warning for this is, let's see, implied assault, I guess, and domestic slavery would be a way of putting this one. And it weirdly hangs into Hannah's mermaid piece. Sad am I without thee. He set off that morning with no particular aim in mind, just a need to see the sea when suddenly wind whistle and gull cry was song and laughter, and thereafter he could never hear either without his imagination running raw. What he saw, dawn after dawn, beggared forgetting, delving deep into sleepless nights. After the seventh such, he surrendered, and rendered bold by a hunger that begrudged his lungs their breath, he crept from behind his accustomed rock and touched what was never his to touch, laying rough hands on the sand-speckled pelt of the naked seal who danced like wind-blown spume along the shore, a woman for this while. She turned with a smile that died at the sight of uninvited fingers on her hide, the sacred made profane. No, she said, and please, but he didn't heed, just tightened his grip and retreated, while she, tear-streaked, trailing entreaties tailed behind, taken by a binding curse too cruel to resist. And over the 7 years that followed, and their 3 children, kept from the sea by his bedrock fear of their freedom, she never stopped looking, between cooking and cleaning and every other mechanical task she blessed his house with, until innocence, in the form of their 3rd child, did find it musty and damp and tied tight with twine. What's this? At once she kissed her kids, blissfully slit those bitter strings, and slinging the skin over her shoulder ran like riptide for the shore, calling all the while wild as wind cry, shedding clothing with each step until she plunged, properly clad at last, into the welcoming waves. This was a tale of the Selkie folk. They never seem to end well for everyone. Thank you. Okay, that one is from a show I wrote a while ago. And again, it's lovely to see Hannah there because she saw one of the first versions of it while I was still going, is this going to work? So yeah, it's always lovely to have that kind of connection. The rest of this is going to be slightly less sort of lyrical. And the next one, trigger warnings for very strong language, let's face it. Biphobia, fetishization of bisexual people, and excessive sarcasm. Okay, it's quite long because why lead people in gently? But here's a long one, which was from a rant with a friend about, he was talking about Grindr, and I said, let me tell you of the before times. Before Grindr, there was gaydar girls. So this one's called Here Be Unicorns, or My 40s Are a Lot Better Than My 20s. Ladies and gentlemen, and every other particular, strap yourselves in for what some call the ride from hell, the deceptively exclusive bisexual bagatelle. Our Choose Your Own Adventure starts with you, a newly sundered miss who strayed into the hetero zone and now finds yourself cut adrift. Misanthropy beckons, but you've reckoned without the healing power of friendship and the unending source of solace that is the internet. Let's cite this in context. 2004, another door slammed in your face, and having been placed in the category of failed lesbian, true story, our heroine is keen to reboard the train to Lapland, if you know what we mean. strapping yourself into a magic capsule to bounce around the board that we call Gaydar Girls. Other products available. Your mileage may vary. Your peace of mind may be at risk if you don't keep up repayments into the bank of bliss. Cite your preference. Sit this psychometric test. Bless yourself with a unique username. No, not that one. No, not that one either. And adding 69 to the end will garner you no friends, and besides, someone else already did. Bingo, you're appellated. Now reach out, it's easy, but don't forget to pay attention to geographical preferences, which is meaningless these days, and sexual preferences and romantic preferences and hair preferences. That's length, style, color, and body. Oops. And musical preferences and fitness preferences and body shape preferences, though Grindr's no fatties, really, is less important than the far more common no drama. And smoking preferences and pet preferences and kink preferences, and hint, preferences may change over time. And this is 14 years ago, that's 17 years ago now, almost to the day, so no chance to say that you're starting to feel unreasonably constrained by the exclusive or of male or female. What's this? No bisexuals, okay. Next, lesbians only. Fine, bi. No bisexuals, no offence. We should get off the fence. No non-lesbians, I get it. Women only. Give me strength. And then we're bounced to the other end of the spectrum, the seemingly unending stream of people keen for you to enhance their lives by joining them, both of them. In their marital bed, their copy and paste charm seems harmless and direct, and yet you can't help but wonder whether you're ever going to be other than the glue to someone else's imperfections, the gold chasing to their cracked vase, your body the album-pressed memory kept from grandchildren, banished to attic dust, a one-time dare. And yet you're tempted. So you don't answer no, not yet. Don't scroll your own Control V, fleet and meaningless not yet, because you're no stranger to polyamory, but you do want to notch that stick with my first threesome. And it would be so easy. But you play it cool, keep switching up text dialects, butch enough without being brutal, funny enough without being futile, deep enough without the drama, real enough to balance your karma, carting your dreams between this weave of half-truths, bemusement, new acronyms apparently, ancient profile pictures, and women with interesting issues, and husbands, and children, and cats. There's a lot of cats. Bad habits and a real failure to grasp basic grammar, and the realization that you are a snob, a hypocrite and desperate. And you'd best get back to better masturbation techniques at this rate, except your toys all bear memories of him and her and them. And an ending despair is leavened only by the ping of notifications, a good half of which are angry men bent on negging your HTML skills, of all things, another true story, and showering you with dick pics, which you hadn't expected to pick up on a queer dating site, for shite's sake. Time to close some profiles. Time to block some pricks. Time to pick and choose. Time to get back your diurnal rhythms. Time to sow the schisms of your soul. Time to dole out some peace. Pay the fees for qualified counselling instead of rendering yourself down for literally faceless strangers. Time to admit you are not ready to date again yet. Time to admit you need sleep more than you need sex right now. Time to admit it's fine to be alone for a while. Time to admit you are more than someone's ex. And now you've anecdotes and a list of narrow escapes and new ways to say no, and are no longer helpless and have at least one new friend as a result, and know that you are not alone, and that you are more than some mythical creature, and that treating yourself well is the opposite of weakness. Lean into the calm curves of self-acceptance and smile. A day is coming when you'll stop bouncing and start to weave your own path between extremes. And in the meantime, there's always erotic fan fiction and fingers. Always. Thanks very much. Hoping I haven't killed Hannah there. Right, just put that link in the chat for people to share if needs be. Right. Okay. So we get angrier and then more hopeful, I guess. This one hasn't been published anywhere. I'm not sure I can actually share this because it's on a Google Doc. So, But this one was written over the summer and definitely links into something that Alex was talking about as strong recognition here. It's roughly June time, I think it was last year. Yeah, we know that one. So this one, I guess, is on behalf of me and my siblings. It's called Instruction List, or How to Be Acceptably Queer, or Mensana in Corpore Alter. You're supposed to stand still. Never resist those who say you don't exist, who debate your right to the words that set you free, want to pin you to that body, drive stakes through your heart and other associated parts, kickstart your acceptance of the lies with electrifying dog piles and the weight of recent history, ignoring the identity of those who actually rewrote our legends anyway. I'm supposed to stay calm, keep my voice low, hands low, eyes low, don't provoke their anger, understand their pain, internalize how they feel invalidated by my truth, saying there's no room for me and my siblings, digging in heels and haunches. You can't sit with us unless you confess your sins, repent your manifestation, stay there, stand, or better, kneel by the cheap seats. Don't think of building your own place either. I'm supposed to apologize constantly, beg scraps of your largesse, demonstrate humility at every pass because I don't pass for whatever you think this situation ought to be, forgive you for every grumpy non-apology. I find this difficult. Then try being me, us, them, stuttering in a no man's land we've had to handcraft from cast-offs, locking horns we never wanted with those who are supposed to be family. I'm supposed to stay silent. Don't mention the war I've never signed up for. I've had more respect from everyone but you. Did you know that? It's like being bi in the 90s all over again, and yet legendary septuagenarians are doing their best, correcting themselves without aggression. I've had more accommodation from straight priests, one messaging me, would you like me to think of you as they? Before I'd said as much publicly, knowing that her thoughts mattered as much as her actions. Allies are people who know that understanding our needs is more important than feeling how we feel. I'm supposed to bow when you all caps shout biology as though summoning an unstoppable god. That's not how science works, incidentally, and Mum's Net is a bad place for mental attunement to the new ways of being. But believe me, your cargo cult understanding is barely GCSE, and the key thing about science is that on the presentation of new, compelling evidence, it changes its mind. That kind of mental grind is obviously too much work for you. Your synapses wrapped in concrete more than uneasy with the notion of bridging gaps. I was supposed to be patient, to lead you to better understanding gently by the hand, absorb the snarls and snipes, the gripes of the territorially threatened, those jettisoning kinship for the shallow thrill of behaving just as badly as everyone we fought before this schism. Stonewall wasn't started by the gender conforming. Storming battlements was never led by anything but unrepentant queerness. Before you scorn my scars, I'm 45, not part of the naivety you harp on, have marched and petitioned, represented, stepped to and stood my ground since the last century. I'd ask you to fight alongside me, plead for compassion. Believe it or not, gnashing my teeth has never been my style, but while you're convinced your rights to existence are threatened by mine, I'll have to decline your kind offer to be your proffering to the gods for acceptance by the mainstream and glean succor from those who know that parity isn't a zero-sum game, actually. So fellow fighters, please, be at peace. But best believe your current price for that transaction is too high. Comfort cannot come by you colluding with those who seek to bind me, would see me defined by how I bleed. Thanks. Thanks very much. How am I doing? All right. Righto. This one is a short one and not angry, defiant maybe. It's one written as part of the project called 28 Sonnets Later. A few years ago, I was asked to join in with a group of I'm not going to use any kind of slur, but I'm going to say that they are very intense people who really like sonnets. And every February, I have to say us now, I guess, because I've written enough now that I can't call myself not someone who writes sonnets anymore. Every February we each write about 7 sonnets in rotation on a theme, and the theme the first year I joined was historical famous people kind of thing, historical folk. And so we were asked to bung some names into the hat, and I of course found as many trans and otherwise queer people of history that I could to throw in there. I got some of them back, so you know, it wasn't just totally throwing my colleagues for a loop. But yeah, the 28 Sonnets Later blog holds all of those, and this one was written for a really amazing person, Alan L. Hart. He was a physician, a radiologist, a medical researcher, a novelist, a short story writer, and basically an all-round Renaissance man. He was also one of the first people to have, I think he was the first cis man to have affirmative surgery, and one of the first people to take testosterone, because most of his life was spent with it not being available in any usable fashion. They tried some really terrifying experiments, I won't lie. But in the end, there is a recording of him speaking in his true voice, which I can only imagine how amazing that must have been for him, and for those who loved him. So this is called The Undaunted, which is after a title of one of his many, many pieces of work. Oh, also, just to make it clear, this is the man who worked out what caused tuberculosis and how to cure it. So, you know, not a small person in the history of the world, and kind of fits in with this being for CUH. The boy who worked the land then tended men whose chests held monsters that he called by name, and naming mastered, hunted, speared, and then eradicated as a source of shame. The man who showed us those mysterious rays kept secrets that no single soul should bear. This pioneer in many different ways, defined by his unceasing, fierce care. He said he never hid. That much is true, and even when fate frowned, he took his chance. Through all the lauds and plaudits he accrued, contested frame of flesh, mere happenstance. Now decades on, we still hear his true voice. He fought, and winning, gave more men that choice. Thanks very much. I have one more. I did a lot of fiddling around with this set list, trying to work out what would fit. So yeah, I wanted to end up with something reasonably hopeful. This is a piece I wrote for a local radio station. We used to have a show called Rebel Arts Women's Radio, and there was a particular program on sexuality. And I don't know about Hannah, I've done this before, where people say, oh, bring something you've got that's applicable. You think, great, I'll just shoehorn something like this in. And then you end up in your lunch hour at work, suddenly writing a new one and then bringing something else. Yeah, she's recognizing this one. So this one's been fiddled about a bit since then, but it's called Addenda, and it's basically everything I wish someone had told 17-year-old me. Being a bit of a shortcut, in other words. It's one small step for mankind and a giant leap for you. Oh, sorry. I should also tell you a content warning. It is involves internalized homophobia and let's say, how are we going to put this? Clueless cis-het attitude is probably the nicest way to put it. You know, they mean well kind of vibe. So yeah, this is Addenda. I'll start from the beginning again. It's one small step for mankind and a giant leap for you. You thought the journey starts with just one footfall, and all you need to do is fall forward, defying gravity, perfectly balanced in brand new boots, and fly. They would have better said, never mind perfection, just take the plunge, because that standing jump is just the first of many. For even when those boots are molded close as loving skin, every step is you expounding pronouns, saying, these shoes that fit are 10% of all you see, but reason to love or hate the one you think is me. So mind your step, because the journey still goes on. They never said you will be striding boldly forth, more naked than that nameless day when you were born, exposed and oh so instantly invisible. Erased from history, you'll be looking for the roots of how you came to be, reaching through secret glass to an unrecorded past, gasping for lack of shared air. You'll become detective, historian, hysterical or bored, pawing through clues stuck back in the place of sieving hints that others ever felt like you. They never told you that the first time might be awful, more tawdry, more disappointing than any heterosexual liaison, a long plummet from a tall plinth, instinct serving you less well than Judy Blume, yes, I know that dates me, and textbooks ever did. Turns out same sex does not mean same body, same history, same ticklish bits and glitches, just a similar list of hits and misses. And they never told you how slow wisdom gifts your bed, the pleasure of discovery, the countless ways two near same bodies twist and fit together, seamless and daring, multiplying variety, writhing, humming and deriding the rigidity of purely procreative instincts. You'll dance and quiver, shiver in the warmth of mirrored flesh, the deft delight of their eyes lighting, soft and hard and all you dreamed and more. This was never written. Temptation will disgrace the days when you smile at queer jokes, poke fun at those celebrities, brittle giggles dogging homeward steps because acceptance seems less work than truth. Those days when you take off your badge, kiss the double standard of invisibility, shiver in the musty dark for the safe sake of job promotions, nosy neighbours, fitting in. No one told you how straight folk will tell you that homophobia is over now. Good news. And everything is great because you're state sanctioned, wrapped in legal comforts and soap characters and charity. And you will sigh and add another number to the queer appendix, tick your bingo list and patiently not bristle. Maybe this one will listen when you tell them. They never mentioned all the days you'll crave the conventional. Not to let go of her hand, no, for the day when it isn't defiance, stares or gasps, just a safe clasp. The everyday press of flesh on flesh, the reminder of her beginning and your end. When you kiss her in the street and no one even notices. When it's only farewell hammering in your chest, nothing more, nothing less, when boring blesses with the miracle of normal. Thanks very much. This has been an amazing, amazing night. Thank you.
Faye, thank you so much. I could listen to you all evening, and I'm sure there's a website I could tune into and keep on hearing. Thank you so much. Now, Hannah, would it be okay if we asked you to read your poem Mermaids that you started on as a close to this evening's session? Would that be okay?
Yes, absolutely. I've tracked down a written copy. Sorry, this is the poet's. I feel confident. I'm sure I got this. I didn't. But yes, Faye, if I can, yeah, I also thank you for bouncing selkies off that. So yes, here's the piece properly. This is very short. It's called Mermaids. It goes like this. When you feel landlocked by your otherness, stranded and alone, remember there are women you have not met yet. Women who will answer your siren calls, who will wail and crash ecstatic at just the sound of your breathless song. And you will both drown in motion, wash up reborn on shores of damp sheets, giggling and perfect in each other's arms, on islands no men know. And that was the positive counterbalance to some of my angrier pieces. So yes, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm aware of everybody's time. I want this to continue for another hour, but we will draw to a close. Can I thank you so much, Hannah, Alex, and Faye? I think you've probably, we've done a lot of things in an hour. So much emotion, so many roller coasters that we've just probably listened to in an hour. And you've probably reminded me and us why this day is important. It's not over. There's a way to go for us and a whole range of other people. You've expressed it in so many ways. I am extraordinarily grateful personally, but on behalf of our audience, thank you so much. I wish we could clap you and hug you. Oh, we can hug you at some point. But tonight we sort of silently appreciate and celebrate what you've just shared with us. Thank you so much for what you've just done. And to our audience, If you're part of CUH, join our network. We do talk and we do act and we do find ways of progressing this agenda. Details on the website. Just a reminder for those who are part of CUH, we work with wonderful partners at the CUH Trust who can help you to establish your own network and to engage with this, this journey in a different way. So please do use resources available to us in our community. And I hope that those who aren't members of CUH are inspired to continue to talk and engage and connect on this really important agenda. So unless there's any other further to do, Nikki or Katrina, is there anything I should be saying? I want to say thank you so much. I celebrate the day with you and what you've just shared with us. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you.